enough is enough.
Emily and Kobe seem to be going strong from the outside looking in, and we know that they got married and had another baby, but that all came crashing down when Kobe revealed that they might have broken up on his Instagram, and you'll never believe what happened. Throughout the season of 90 Day Fiance, Emily and Kobe's relationship has been on the rocks, and it always seems like they're moving from one problem to another, and now everything seems to be getting worse. Recently, Kobe has been posting a lot of motivational content, including pictures and videos on his social media pages, and at first it might not really seem like much since he's just trying to be inspirational for his followers by creating posts like, make the most out of today because tomorrow is not sure, but it seems like it's actually a lot deeper than that. There was one particular post that he made that caught the attention of so many people, myself included, and I have to say this post felt like he was indirectly trying to tell us the current status of his and Emily's relationship. I think he's trying to tell us this indirectly because of the contract that they have with TLC, so he wouldn't get into any trouble with them for revealing information about himself and Emily. So in this post that Kobe made, it's pretty obvious that he was heading to work, but that wasn't what caught the attention of everyone. What caught the attention of everyone was what he said. He was talking about the importance of relationships, and then he looked into the camera and made a really interesting statement. He spoke about how most of the time we're actually the ones that cause our own problems because we extend relationships with people instead of moving on from them. And then he ended his post by saying we should always take note of the people that are actually worthy in our lives and the people who stand by us in our darkest moments. And this got me thinking, what exactly did he mean by saying that? Was he trying to say that he's his, cause of his own problems because he was extending his relationship with Emily instead of just moving on from her? And sure, his words were definitely inspirational and full of a lot of truth, but there was still some sort of hidden meaning behind it. And this had so many people talking about how he might have been referring to his relationship with Emily, and maybe he's indirectly trying to tell us that they've actually called it quits. And the more I think about it, the more likely this actually seems. He's even been dropping subtle hints on his Instagram page, like how recently there's barely any picture of him and Emily together. He more or less only makes posts about himself and Coben, and this wasn't actually the case before. So why exactly doesn't he post Emily as much as he did before? And the only explanation I can actually think of is the fact that he and Emily might have already broken up, but they don't want anyone to know about it just yet. And if this is actually the truth, I wish I could say no one would have ever expected them to break up, but that wouldn't be the truth. We've all watched their relationship crumble before our eyes, so in a way, I guess I could say we all expected them to actually break up, and the signs always seemed to be there, starting with how they barely got along with each other after Kobe moved to the United States, and they both had completely different opinions on parenting, and they always seemed to clash with their decisions. And then there was, Emily, who clearly didn't see how much Kobe was struggling to meet up with all her demands and expectations of him, and not to mention the fact that he just hated working at her parents' farm, but did it because he had no choice at all. And at one point it felt like they were finally starting to get along with each other, but that didn't last. And part of the issue was the fact that Emily has obviously made her intention to have a big wedding very clear to Kobe, and she doesn't only want a huge wedding, she also wants an even bigger diamond ring to go along with it. And honestly, in my opinion, this is really unnecessary, but Emily didn't think so. And she even went as far to say this isn't really high maintenance, and she just likes what she likes. And to anyone that wouldn't be much of a problem, but she and Kobe aren't just anyone. The problem was Kobe only had around $4,000 in savings, and he could barely afford to take care of himself, her, and their son Coben, and he's still constantly trying to prove to her parents that he can actually take care of her and Coben, and that didn't really matter to Emily at all. Even when Kobe decided to try his best to make Emily happy by buying her a ring, it turned out that she actually went behind his back and bought herself a different engagement ring, and that was totally insane if you ask me. Kobe has been trying his best to prove himself to her, but she always acts like she doesn't care at all, and knowing full well that he doesn't even have any family around to support him but her and Coben, I wish I could say that this was the last of the problems Emily and Kobe faced, but it wasn't. Their biggest issue yet came when they found out that Emily had gotten pregnant again, and at first, this might not seem like a huge deal, but it was a really huge deal for both of them. They more or less were depending on Emily's parents for almost everything, and they even lived in their house, and Kobe worked for them, and Emily's parents didn't really have much of an issue with helping them to get on their feet, but they did give them one very clear instruction, and that instruction was that they shouldn't get pregnant again. And then Emily and Kobe went ahead to do the opposite of what her parents asked them to do, do, and I honestly think that this was just the final breaking point for them. Maybe they just couldn't get along with each other again, probably because they were struggling when it was just, the three of them, and I can only imagine how crazy things became when they found out they were expecting another child. And even though Kobe has been trying to drop what I can describe as subtle hints about them breaking up, there is, still hasn't been any official confirmation, and as far as social media is concerned, Emily and Kobe are still pretty much together. But recently, Emily even shared a post about how she had returned the engagement ring that she bought for herself and accepted the one that Kobe gave her, and in her post, she and Kobe could clearly be seen hugging each other, and they still looked pretty much in love with each other, but everything you see on social media these days is a lot more than what actually meets the eye. So I guess we'll just have to keep waiting to get more updates on their relationship to determine where they actually stand. And while we wait, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. So guys, thank you all so much for watching this video. Please do me a huge favor. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like, follow, share, subscribe button, and y'all better stay tuned for many more videos.